It's been a minute since I've done one of these videos, but on one eye I'm wearing a high-end $69 palette and on the other eye I'm wearing a $24 palette. So can you guess which eye is which? Because honestly, I don't see a difference. But today we're doing a comparison of the brand new Alter Ego Amberglow palette, which is a dupe of the high-end Natasha Denona Golden palette. This video is kindly sponsored by Alter Ego, but I love doing these comparisons in case you're someone that was really interested in this high-end expensive color story and want to get it for a cheaper price. Because honestly, Alter Ego hits it out of the park every time. I'm going to start by doing swatch comparisons between the two palettes so we can see the comparable shades side by side. And then we'll zoom in and do a close-up eyeshadow tutorial with one palette on each eye. And I'm doing a little wear test today, so let's get started. All right, let's take a quick look at these two palettes side by side. So on the left we have Amberglow, on the right we have Golden. Here we go. At this point, I have done so many comparison videos with Alter Ego palettes, and I gotta say, they do a fantastic job every single time. So of course, at first glance, these are gonna look so similar, but let's dive in and do some swatch comparisons. Here we go, starting in the upper left-hand corner. So this is Glint and Aura. Beautiful. Then we have Sundrop and Pana. This is a shade that I use a lot just for like blending out the edges because it is so close to my skin tone. This shade is going to be the dupe of my favorite shade from the Golden palette, which is Nubia. So we have Rich and Nubia. Looks pretty spot on to me. Like they even got that sparkle right. And then we have Umber and Aria. Next is Sepia and Teak, which is probably one of my most used matte shades from Golden. So far, all of these shades are looking spot on as expected. Moving on to the next row, we have Bisque and Maliko. Looking at these two just in the pan, Velvet looks a little bit more pink, so it'll be interesting to see how these two compare. We have Velvet and Flesh. Yeah, even in the swatch, it's like this one pulls, I don't know, a smidge more salmon-y almost. I think on the eyes, those would look pretty comparable. Same kind of thing with this shade. The undertone of Honey looks a little bit green to me, and I was like, what shade is this supposed to be a dupe of? And I believe it's supposed to be Aurum. Let's see here. We have Honey and Aurum. Oh yeah, I do see quite a big difference there, especially with the formula too. You can see in the swatch, but Aurum just has so much more pigment and pop to it, while Honey looks a lot softer. And the shade, yeah, it does look a smidgen green to me. So I don't really think they hit the mark with that shade, but let's keep going. And we have Dazzle and Kava. Color-wise, that looks spot on to me, but formula-wise, this shimmer does pop a bit more. And then we have Copper and Varus. This is probably one of my least used shades from the palette. I'm gonna wipe this off. Let's move on to the last row. This is Ivory and Fizzy. Those look good to me. Next is Suede. Oh, this one feels really smooth. And Sandstone. This is Halo and Alchemist. Ooh, those look really good. We have the most gold yellow looking shades in these palettes. So we have Blaze and Oro. And then the very last shade is the dark brown. Now I will say this shade Log always swatches terribly for me, but it works well on the eyes. We have Cocoa and Log. See how, like, it always just looks so patchy when I swatch it, but I swear it's fine. That entire last row is really solid. All the shades look like a really good dupe for each other. And now let's put these palettes to the test, and I'm gonna try to do the same eye look with one palette on each eye. As always, when I do these comparison dupe kind of videos, I'm gonna use two separate sets of brushes so I'm not mixing the formulas together. And of course, I'm gonna be using my custom Sigma eye brush set that I created, and I designed it to be like a perfect, complete eye brush set. I'm gonna prime both of my eyes with the Rare Beauty eyeshadow primer. And then blending that out with my AB1 brush. And then I'm setting that primer in place with a translucent powder on both eyes. Let's get started. I'm gonna use Alter Ego on my left eye and Natasha Denona on my right. Starting with my fluffy blending brush in the shade Velvet, and I'm gonna run that throughout my entire crease. I really wanted to start with this shade because, again, in the swatches and kind of in the pan, the shade looks a little bit more pinky to me, so I want to see how it shows up on the eyes. Alright, that looks nice and smooth in the crease. And then same exact brush, just a clean one in the shade Flesh. And same thing, just running that throughout my crease. If I'm being so picky right now, it does seem like this shade has a little bit more of that golden, a little bit more warmth to it than this side. But I do think from a distance you really wouldn't notice, and this is also the first shade that I've laid on my eye, so you might not even notice that by the end. Sticking to the same brush, I'm going to grab the shade Suede, and I'm going to focus this shade more in my outer crease. One thing I like about using the Alter Ego palettes is that they change the layout of the shadows compared to the higher end version, and honestly a lot of the time I prefer Alter Ego's layout, like it just makes more sense to my brain. But I also like it though too, because I'm seeing different shades next to each other, it kind of helps me come up with some different color combos. And then I'm picking up a little bit more of that shade and I'm bringing it down to this very outer part of my lid and then connecting it in this outer crease. And then from Natasha Denona, I'm taking Sandstone. And again, I'm starting it on the outer crease at first, just to start to build up this depth. And then picking up more of that shadow and bringing it to the very outer part of my lid. I think both sides are looking so similar right now. Now I'm going to switch to my shader brush in the shade Sepia, and I'm going to use that to deepen up this outer corner just a little bit more. Layering up these matte shades and slowly going deeper and deeper is really what's going to give you that nice blended, kind of seamless look, where I'm just slowly adding more and more depth to the eyes. And then from Natasha Denona, I'm taking Teak. Now I'm going to grab my favorite shimmer shade from these palettes, and I'm just going to use my finger. So I'm going to take Rich from Alter Ego, and I'm not going to put on any extra base because I really want to see how these shadows perform on their own. Popping that right on this inner blank part of my lid. Super happy with how this shade looks. The sparkle looks beautiful. And then I always like to go back to my fluffy brush and just kind of soften around the edges of the shimmer. And then for my other eye, I'm going to take Nubia. This is going to be the true test of which shimmer performs better. Picked up a little bit more because I think I might have had a bit of hard pan in this shade, which does happen sometimes. And then blending with my fluffy brush. Okay, looking at those two shimmers side by side, I feel like there's no difference between them. I'm gonna go ahead and do my under eye concealer, then we'll do the lower lash line. Now for the lower lash line, I typically like to use the same shades that I put in my crease. So I'm gonna start with Suede on my small blending brush, and I'm gonna blend that along my entire lower lash line. And then another small blending brush in the shade Sandstone from Natasha Denona. I feel like I need to even out my eyes a little bit, so I'm going to add more to my Alter Ego side. And a touch more here. And I'm going to grab the lightest matte shade that I used for each look. So on this eye, I'm grabbing Velvet on that same brush. and just blending a little bit lower than that first matte shade. And then using Flesh from Natasha Denona on this side. Now I'm going to grab a nude liner and run that in both of my waterlines. And I'm going to grab my small detail brush in the deepest matte shade I used. And I'm going to stamp that right along the base of my lower lashes, right below my waterline. I want to keep that waterline looking nice and bright. And then grabbing Teak for the other eye. Now I'm going to grab a highlight shade, so I'm going to pick up Glint. I just have this on my small blending brush, and I'm going to pop that in the inner corner. And then for the other eye, I'm taking Aura. Alright, that is the eyeshadow all done. I popped on my mascara and lashes, and for my lashes, I'm wearing the Bright Lashes Half Lash in the style Flirt that are now 25% off on my website if you want to check these out. I want to do one last step on the eyes, and that's adding a little bit of a deeper shadow to my lash line just to help blend in my lashes. So taking my small detail brush in the darkest shade from each palette, and I'm just going to stamp a little bit of that right on top of the lash band. And this is just going to add a little bit of depth. And then grabbing Log for my other eye. And that is both eyes complete. You guys have to tell me if you see any difference, because honestly, I think Alter Ego nailed it as always. I gotta say, I do love how this eye look turned out. All right, here is what the full face is looking like. I did try out a few newer products on my face today, and let me tell you what I used. I literally just got this in PR right before I started filming this video, and I was like, perfect, let me try it. This is the new Natasha Denona liquid bronzer. I filmed a little short with it. Of course, it was my very first time using it, but first impression, I was really happy with it. Good coverage, nice pigment, and very easy to blend. And then on my lips, I'm wearing some of the new lip products from Huda Beauty. I popped on the lip contour stain in Toasty Brown, and then the faux filter jelly oil in Juicy Peach. If you've been watching my videos for a minute, you know how much I love the Too Faced Kissing Jelly glosses, and I gotta say these are pretty similar. They both feel very juicy, comfortable, and hydrating on the lips, and they both smell amazing. I do want to do a little wear test today, but it is kind of later in the day. It's almost 3 o'clock right now, so it's not going to be a long wear test, but I think it would be nice to do just to see if there's any fading on the eyes throughout the day between the two formulas. So I will check back in a few hours. I am the worst at doing makeup wear tests. I just don't like to wear my makeup for that long. I get ready for bed pretty early at like 8:30, so it's currently 8 p.m. so I've been wearing this makeup for only 5 hours now. I feel like 5 hours is decent, not the best, but I really just wanted to see if there's any difference between the eyes throughout the day and if like anything faded. Let me get up close here. And again, I did prime both eyes the same exact way with my Rare Beauty primer and a powder. Honestly, they look the same. Like, it doesn't look like one has faded more than the other. And I don't see any creasing happening on either eye. So, I mean, formula-wise, again, Alter Ego does a great job at such an affordable price. Oh, and just to show you the Huda Beauty lip liner too, you can see how that stains all around the lips. Like, those lip liners really do last. They're just a little tricky to work with because they have to be stored upside down. If you don't store it that way, it dries out. Yeah, that's kind of how everything is holding up after 5 hours. That is gonna wrap up this video. As always, I'm gonna link all the products and brushes I used today down below. And don't forget, if you wanna check out the new Alter Ego Amberglow palette, you can use my code Angela10 to save. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.